All right, what's up, y'all? 99 Dreamers. How y'all doing today? We back at it. This is episode 3 or podcast 3. So we 3 weeks into, the process and, you know, um, I'm ready to give you guys a little update about, my past week, what I went through and then talk a little bit about the lessons I learned and then what I want to talk about for the specific podcast, which is balance and priorities. And before I start with that, I just want to talk a little about my introduction. I think I want to try and find something that is like repetitive so we could do every episode like a phrase or a mantra. A lot of my favorite rappers have like their go-to phrases or like that go-to verse that they may highlight on like every song or every other song. So possibly something like that for, our community. So I got started thinking about that. But sorry, let me put that on mute. But starting off for the business update, I think last episode we left off with me talking about me having my frustrations about getting in contact with manufacturers on Alibaba. And this past week, I was actually make some steps forward in that process. So I was able to get into contact with 2 different manufacturers and started having more productive conversations and discourse. And I was able to get them from conversing on Alibaba to actually my email. So last episode, I highlighted that I made a script with specific things that I wanted to ask. And then they were able to provide me answers to, the question that I asked. But, I'm not going to lie, a lot of things in the script, I didn't really know what they were. So I had to end up going back and try to figure out what specifically was I asking them. Because I was asking them things like, what is the EXW price? What is the DDP price? What is FOB? Things like that. What is master carton size and things of that nature. So I was able to learn about these things like X works is EXW. And that means that the manufacturer is only required to make the good. And then from there, it would be on my end to find a way to get the good shipped from China all the way to the US. And in that process, I would probably need to get in contact with the freight forwarder. FOB is free on board. And then that's when the supplier is required to make the good, but also put it to a port. And then from there, I would need to work with the freight forwarder to get it from China to the US. So in that case, it would just be better to go with EXW and just leave it at their actual factory. And then from there, have the freight forwarder, organize it from that point. And they also say that it's cheaper usually to do EXW than FOB. But there's also a third option called DDP. And this is where the supplier is required to make the product and ship it all the way from China to US. So that's the type of route that I'm thinking that I want to go forth with initially, because I don't really know. I'm not too sure about how to get in contact with a reliable freight forwarder and one that's I'm sure is going to take care of my goods and has the lowest prices. And I kind of read that freight forwarders need to have, really good relationships with a lot of, intermediaries and just groups in order to have the lowest prices. So I'm not really sure about that process yet. So I think I'm just going to go off with DDP and just get the supplier to ship, to make my product and then ship it from China to US. And then in that process, last week was a crazy week for me, just to give a little bit, of a background in like me and myself, my story. Like I said, I am a senior at the University of Miami. So this senior year has been pretty crazy, major mechanical engineering. The curriculum is always wild, but me trying to do the curriculum and also me trying to find a job for full time was a really big deal last week. And I had, a couple of interviews that I needed to prepare for. So having to juggle 3 different things at the same time. And then also some personal things just in my life that kind of happened. So having all these things going on in my head, really made me realize that I need to, think about balance and priorities. So that's what I want to talk about a little bit later in the podcast. But specific lessons from this week, just about building your environment. So I kind of found myself a couple days not being too motivated to work. And, I realized it was an effect of what I had around me. So I realized that when I don't constantly have like self-development podcasts on, when I'm not watching Social Proof podcasts, which I highlighted before, which is like a good podcast for me because it just keeps my mind learning and just more expansive. When I don't have things like that on just in the background, I kind of find myself a little bit, less motivated, and I needed to realize that I know what makes myself tick. So if you're listening, I feel like you need to understand, what makes yourself tick, what makes you work, and just really try to understand the ins and outs of yourself. And then also that even though I was feeling down, it's okay to need to reset. So I realized that I needed to take a shower, right? So we had like a hurricane that ended up, hitting Miami, and school went online for about 2-3 days. And, I usually just hate online stuff. I hated remote school, which we had sophomore year and a little bit of junior year. And this was kind of like a flashback into that. And then just me not leaving the house, all day. It kind of messed up my psyche. So I realized that I needed to reset. And that reset was in the form of just like taking a long shower, and then in that, trying to get right. And then when I hopped out of the shower, I got right back to work, got right back on the grind. And it's okay. Sometimes that's necessary. You're not going to be running at, peak power 100% of the time. And then I also kind of told myself that, like, even though I was having a bad day that day, that doesn't mean I need to have a bad day tomorrow. Or just because I had a bad day in the morning, that doesn't mean I need to have a bad night. So you can always make that change. You can always make that switch no matter when it is. And although you may be, in a specific present, prepare for the future. So prepare to, have a good day, and, get your mind right for that. So those are a couple lessons from the week. Like I said, just build the environment, know what makes yourself tick. And then, a bad day now doesn't mean bad day tomorrow. So those are kind of my lessons. And then to get back on the topic of the podcast, which is balanced priorities, with me juggling, these things that were going on in my school life, me trying to find a job, getting job offers, and, the personal things that was going on in my life, you need to know what needs to be put first. And, it's easy to say that, I'm just going to put, everything into the business, and I'm not going to care about, my grades anymore. I'm not, going to care about job offers because, my company is going to take me where I want to be. But, at the end of the day, I need to be realistic. And I know that my first priority is school and finding a job offer. And then at this point, my company would take the back burner. And the way I think about it and rationalize it is I think that's okay. Although I may not be able to dedicate large amounts of time to it, I'm still 100% focused on it, and I'm still 100% invested in my company. And I know that every day, although it may be 30 minutes, 15 minutes, or just thinking about throughout the day, I know that I'm that one step closer to having a successful business. I'm one step closer to achieving the goals and the things that I need to do. But, at this point, I can only focus on, what's in front of me and my other priorities, and that's okay. So, say you may be in, your job, or, you have kids. It's okay to focus on those things first. And then when you have time, work on your company, because a lot of people say, oh, because I can't put everything to the company, I'm not going to do it at all. But I feel like doing something is better than nothing. So that's just what I'm thinking, small steps better than no step. And that's a couple of things that, I've just been thinking about, and that's what I want to talk about. And, juggling a lot of things, it can be stressful and it can be tough. And for me, the way I deal with that is just by putting it all on God, putting all my troubles, all my worries, all my fears, and releasing it up to God and allowing, Him to, guide me and keep me strong. That's how, I've been able to get through, this tenure as me as a businessman for, this month, for 2 months that has been so far. Let me see, it's been October, so August, September, October, 2 months. So that's kept me level-headed. And, it has been some days where, I've worked late nights a little bit longer, just trying to study more concepts about, what exactly I'm working on. And, I've had doubts, but, it's okay because that's all part of the process. And, you just have to be excited about the process and be excited about the step that you are on. You might have 1,000 more steps to go, but be overjoyed that you're 10 steps in because you're one step closer. So it's just knocking down the trees, back to that analogy I said in the first episode, and just keep working. So I want to set my goals for next week. By the end of next week, I actually want to get my shipment coming. I made my logo today officially. I had an initial one, but I took a photo off of the internet, and I don't want to have any copyright issues, so I ended up remaking a logo on Keynote, and it's just the initial logo is not the best, but it's enough to start. So I made my logo, so now I can send off that information. I ended up getting a UPC code from GS1, which is the worldwide distributor of UPC codes, which is needed for your product as a identifier and is required for Amazon. So I ended up getting that. That was $30, and I'm about to take the plunge. So when I get my sample, which I do think it'll take some time, because on the DDP time frame that one of the manufacturers said, it said in about 4 to 6 weeks. So I'm not sure how long the sample will take. If that will be a air freight versus a shipping freight, that may come faster. But I will be taking the plunge, and I did have some doubts about that the other day. I started overthinking and re-guessing and thinking in my head, like, did I choose the right product? Is it really going to be successful? I started getting a little bit scared. My stomach started racing, but I'm never Joshua. I forgot his last name, but he was a guest on Social Proof Podcast, and he was said the only way you fail is by not taking action or quitting. So, I'm not gonna fail because I'm just gonna keep going. So, like I said, I'm gonna jump off the ledge and take the plunge and just go with it. And when I get the product on hand, when I get those 1,000 pieces of quantity of my product, I'm gonna need to find a way to get it off my hands. So, that'll be a learning lesson as well. And, I'll learn a lot from that, and my business will take, that much of a leap forward by all the learnings I'll receive from that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna end every episode with let's get it, 99 Dreamers. You're gonna achieve your dream. It will be 100%, but nobody's perfect. So you're gonna achieve 99% of that. And let's go. Let's achieve our goals.